Welcome to the review of an excellent game played between Magnus Carlsen and Veselin Topalov in 2015 at St. Louis, Missouri, USA. We will start with a position where Veselin Topalov started attacking. Black played rook g8, attacking the knight in g-file. Knight takes pawn c4. White ignored the attack on g5 knight, as d4 pawn can be pushed forward and thereby attack the rook with the bishop, and the knight if rook takes knight. Knight takes knight. Pawn to d4. Now this move raised the eyebrow. White could have easily captured the knight with the bishop and equaled. However, the move by Magnus reveals the fact that he is more interested in the kingside weakness of the black, especially the f7 pawn. Knight retaliated to b6. This is a good move, as later on in the game, the knight can be advanced to d2 and support the kingside if need. Now Magnus seemingly have compromised a piece just seeing the high potential of unleashing attack in the kingside. Magnus made his intentions clear as bishop moved to h5, attacking the f7 pawn along with g5 knight. Knight captures bishop. Queen enters kingside, capturing knight. Rook to g7, protecting the pawn. Knight takes pawn h7. Queen is mobilized to d7, and it is a good move by Topalov. Pawn takes on pawn and attacks knight. Pawn takes pawn. Now Magnus has pushed the pawn forward and is trying to have the e-file opened to put more pressure with the rook on e-file, and also thereby restricting the movement of knight. Black now counterattacks along the a8-h1 diagonal and putting pressure on g2 pawn along with the rook on g-file. Magnus defends that with pawn f3. Topalov tries to attack again and also tries to trade off queen with this attack on g-file. Now white tries another method, by giving check by placing knight in f6 and thereby trying to have the knight taken by the pawn, and then pawn takes pawn and clearing the e-line. Black seemingly thought about this and hence played king to d8. Queen takes queen. Rook captures queen. Knight backed off, attacking the pawn at c5. Black started to mobilize bishop to gain more control on the board. White started to unleash the pawn to the black king side. Rook to c8. White pushed the pawn forward, attacking the rook and threatening to promote the pawn. Rook went back to g8. White then moved the bishop to d2. This move was to bring the bishop to a5 square and pin the horse and put additional pressure on king to move away. Black played a great move, by positioning the knight to c4 square, and thereby protecting the a5 square and attacking the bishop. Bishop moved to c3 square, not much threat from bishop now, as knight c4 was an excellent move by black. Bishop to a6 was also a good move, putting pressure on e3 square with the help of knight at c4. Check given by rook to d1. King moved back to e8. Rook to d3. I thought white could have played knight f6 check again, as it is not good for black to capture the knight with the pawn, and it will open the e-file for rook. Bishop placed in f4 square, and it can control the central diagonal very well, and it is an advantageous position. Knight jumped back to f2 square, might be to attack the bishop later. Bishop moved to c6 as it can control more squares. Knight attacks bishop as planned. Bishop attacks the rook. Rook moves to e2. Black identifies the pinnable position of rooks, and hence played bishop to b5. Rook retaliated to d1. Bishop went back to c6. Knight jumped to f2 square, looking to come to e4 square to gain more control. Bishop takes the pawn. Now the g-file is open for black rook, and black can now take the f3 pawn, and g2 pawn is pinned by rook. Knight moved to g4, attacking the bishop. Bishop now captures bishop, and it's very important for black to reduce the pieces of white to take control of the advantage of having an extra piece. Pawn takes bishop. Now as the black bishop is not there, black king moved to black square, also to escape from the rook effect in e-file. Now white king moves to f2, and this helps mobilize the rook more. Also could plan for support for h5 pawn and put pressure down the line. Rook was played to h8, to attack the h5 pawn. Knight played to e5, attacking the knight, and if knight captures knight, then rook can capture knight and provide support for pawn. Knight takes knight. This is good for black, as the piece's advantage is there for black. Rook takes knight. Bishop placed on f8 square, securing the king and thereby making black square free to move away from that position. Pawn attacks rook. Rook to e6. Bishop to b5. Rook doubled on e-line. Rook c7 to support the pawn. White resigned the game here, as black was playing great and is up by one piece, and also is having a great positional advantage. This usually happens in many of the games. When a high vulnerability is observed, players often give up one or two pieces. But if the defenders can play calmly and using opportunities to reduce number of pieces, they can very well win the game. Great game by Topalov. He didn't lose his calm throughout. Thank you all for watching. I will be back with more videos. Please support and subscribe.